Every zero carb drink and snack claims no sugar, no calories, no consequences. But that pattern doesn't actually hold for me or anybody that I've ever met. Cravings don't just stick around, they get worse. So hunger shows up faster, which is crazy making because we just don't understand why we're getting super hungry. And worst of all, weight loss either stalls or it like you actually could regain your weight even when we're doing all the rules that we've been told to do exactly how we've been told to do them. So 8 years ago, I stepped out of that craving loop and I lost 80 pounds. 70 pounds that I lost was within 5 months. So that sparked me studying how food impacts our body. So I want to walk you through like what happens in that first half a second before you swallow anything, because there's a huge lever being pulled that labels don't address. You can't just tell it by looking at the packaging. So let's start by understanding that our tongue isn't just there for us to enjoy food. Our tongue is sending vital information to our brain about our environment, right? So, do you remember when our kids were young, how like they would explore the world by putting every single thing in their mouth? This used to drive me nuts that she would just grab something and put it in her mouth because in my mind, germs, right? But that's because our mouths are actually sending signals to our brain. And these signals are being sent before we swallow anything, right? I actually remember being about 7 years old and I put a spoonful of soup into my mouth and there was a piece of chicken fat in it. I reflexively spit it out across the table. And well, luckily for me, my parents were not at the table, just me and my brother having lunch. And he teased me about that for like so long after I had to rush and clean up the mess before anybody noticed it. But my point is, I didn't think, spit it out. Or I didn't think, what is that? Like in my mouth. It felt weird. I spit it out. In the case of sweet, when that signal, so the sweetness, touches our tongue, we have a cephalic phase insulin response. We don't control that. It just happens. That means our brain triggers insulin release from our pancreas as soon as sweet is detected. And this response makes sense because our history with food has taught us that sweet taste equal sugar is being delivered to our system. It's coming in. And the research also backs this up, by the way. There's a systemic review that pooled the results of dozens of studies on this exact response in people. And our body is already reacting before we swallowed. Like this is known information. But this isn't just about real sugar. For a long time, we've been led to believe that none of this applied to sugar-free sweeteners. No sugar, no calories, so nothing for our body to react to. This is what they've been trying to make us believe. That story comes from real research, and that's the part that makes me annoyed. I keep finding these real research stories or like research papers. This one was from Teft in 1995. 1995 is not that long ago, right? So, okay, let's look at what they actually found, like what the researchers did and what they found. This study took a group of people and gave them sweetener dissolved in plain water. So, have you ever bought artificial sweetener? like to bake or even maybe to put in your coffee, did you taste it straight out? Like, did you just to taste it? Because I did that. It did not taste good. It tasted actually horrible. Somehow, in drinks or even in cookies, it tastes amazing, but on its own, horrible. So they gave people this stuff in plain water. Their participants had to like sip it, hold it in their mouth, swish it around, and then spit it out. And they were probably so happy to be able to spit it out when by the time it was time to spit. And then the insulin response was measured. Like, so they measured what happens to their insulin. And the result was, what do you think? Nothing happened. Not from the artificial sweetener. But guess what? Their results showed nothing happened from real sugar dissolved the same way either, in plain water. Which anybody who's been in this world of like sugar, fat, argument, understands that that's really odd. The glycemic index is based on the fact that sugar is the gold standard for the insulin response. Everything is measured against sugar. But somehow, in this research, in that particular paper, sugar didn't respond. Okay. So then, in 2008, Just and his associates, or her, I'm not sure if it was a he or her, ran the study again. And guess what they found? In fact, both artificial sweetened drinks and sugar sweetened, right, like both of them, produced significant insulin responses. And the responses were similar. So what that means is that people responded to the artificial sweetener and to the sugar water similarly. It wasn't like one was gigantic above the other. They were similar. This research was repeated in 2017, same results. People respond to both. Repeated again in 2024, same results. People respond to both. But somehow today, we're still being told that sweeteners don't raise insulin. How can that be? Well, it turns out that if you follow the money, so those early studies that somehow, or that early study, I should say, that somehow showed no insulin response to sweetener are still being cited. It's like, that's what's cited. Newer studies, and okay, there probably were more than one that showed this no response thing, because as I'm sitting here thinking about it, because I wrote studies, even though I only talked about one, but as I'm sitting here thinking about it, yes, of course, companies can afford to run as many studies as they want. So why am I? But anyways, those studies are still the ones that are being cited, even though the newer studies that were not funded by companies are showing that, like the independents are showing, hey, no, artificial sweeteners do raise insulin similarly to sugar. But what was even more important, a group of researchers specifically looked at who funded those earlier studies. All right, the ones that make sweeteners look safe. And what they found was that the studies funded by sweetener industry was 17 times more likely to land on favorable conclusions than anything that was funded by independent reviewers. And when the authors appeared to be independent, but then there were personal financial conflicts of interest found, favorable results towards the industry sweeteners were 7 times more likely to be in those people's results. And 40% of the conflicts of interest were not disclosed. That's like a lot not being disclosed. So readers are reading the stuff and thinking, oh, this one is showing that it's safe, even though there were conflicts of interest in there. That's what that means. The biology isn't the mystery in this story, Wellness Warrior. It's the gap between what the biology shows and what was actually told to us. The cephalic response is how our brain responds to sweet tastes. So let's look at that. Let's look at how our brain responds to, like, why is our brain even responding? In 2025, researchers had 75 people of mixed weight category, from normal weight category through overweight, all the way till obesity, drink one of three drinks. So they drank a sucralose sweetened drink, a real sugar sweetened drink, and then they drank plain water on separate days. Okay. The researchers scanned their hypothalamus, which is the part of the brain where it tells us, like, it tells our body it's responsible for hunger. That part of the brain is responsible for hunger. I'll put it like that. And what they found was that blood flow was higher after sucralose than plain water. So sucralose, plain water, that, like, the blood flow was higher in that area, meaning people were getting hungry. But it was also higher than, so sucralose was also higher than sugar water. So the artificial sweetener was making people hungrier than sugar water. And that was exactly what people were reporting when they waited that period of time and then asked about hunger. They were, if you drank the sucralose sweetened drink, people were reporting being hungrier than whether they had drank water or whether they had drank sugar water. Now, this result showed up like across the categories, right? It was really strong. So the sucralose beating sugar water and beating plain water was really strong for people who were normal weight. But people with obesity showed something really interesting. Their hunger response was higher for sucralose, but it was still higher for sugar. The only one that they didn't have the huge was water. When they drank water, their hunger signals didn't change. And that brings us to the next point that I want to make to you, because this is super important. I feel like I'm constantly saying this, but in large doses, sugar is a toxin. Insulin has a job related to sugar that explains why people with obesity have a hunger response to sugar and artificial sweetener. And okay, so the toxic nature of sugar is why our body works so hard to manage and contain it. Your body doesn't want there to be extra sugar, right? So when we taste sweet in a recognizable food, so we taste something sweet in a recognizable food or drink, our brain springs into action to deploy insulin to protect us from the incoming toxin. Now, I know that we all joke around and say that, oh my gosh, if I smell a cookie, I gain weight. If I smell brownies, I gain weight. I know we all joke around and say that. But the truth is, if we are in the mall, smell the delicious treats that are being baked in either the bakery or the food court or the whatever, those sweet, I'm talking about cookies, Laura Secord and their ice cream, I think they actually pump the smell into the mall, I'll be honest with you. In our mall, when there was the Laura Secord there, you're not even close to the Laura Secord and you can smell the ice cream. It doesn't make any sense. When I take ice cream out of my freezer, I don't smell it. But anyways, all this ice cream and the syrups and all the stupidity. When we smell delicious treats, but then we leave the mall without buying anything and we don't eat anything, we don't actually get hungry. If we get out of the mall, we just stop smelling the stuff. Our brain knows we didn't actually eat anything. And I know that this happens because back when I was overweight, all I had to do was get in the mall, buy my thing, and get out of the mall, and I was fine, right? Only if I got tempted and bought something to eat was I now in the story where I was overeating something. But I wasn't like I left the mall and went home and was hungry. But guess what happens when I was doing keto, eating properly, not eating garbage, and drank a diet soda without eating anything with it. So just the diet soda, a drink, nothing else. The hunger that hit me, Wellness Warrior, we need to understand that the chain of events from brain to insulin is because our body needs to prepare room for the incoming sugar. Our entire body has about 5 grams of carbohydrates circulating so glucose, circulating at any point in time, calibrated, measured, and kept there based on our physiology and the exact tweaking amount that Violet needs compared to the exact tweaking amount that Patrick needs, compared to the exact tweaking amount that Singit needs, compared to that Elizabeth needs. Whoever needs that amount, that's how much, like, you're dialed in, and that amount is guarded. Our body will not allow it to be even a gram more than it's supposed to be without a fight, Wellness Warrior. So when we drink that stupid diet soda, our body is then now storing some of that sugar in preparation. So it tastes the coming in and it starts storing right. Oh my gosh, sugar's coming in. But no sugar came in because it's a diet soda. And now we have too little sugar in the blood, which is a problem. Remember, it can't be too much, but it also can't be too little. That's hypoglycemia if it's too little. So our body makes us hungry so that we eat something to replenish the missing energy, right? Because now we actually we need to put do we understand? And Dr. Fung explained this to me so well. I watched a video of his and he was so clear. Our body can easily put things into storage. Think about it like putting something in your freezer. But the problem is that when it's in your freezer and it's frozen, it is not as easy to just pull it out and start using it again. It takes time. And that's the problem. Our body can easily put things into storage, but getting it back out of storage, that's problematic. That's why there's always a little bit of sugar floating in our blood, right? The right amount is floating there to run everything that needs to be running. And it's slowly, our body's constantly replenishing it. Again, it is keeping it at the amount it's supposed to be so everything can just run properly. Our body is better than a car because we have to go to the gas station and, right? Our body has this system so set up that if we just eat real food, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and salt all the time, and that's all we ever eat, energy will just always be there. And it doesn't need for it to dip, is the point I'm making. We eat on a schedule where our energy, our reserves, our blood glucose levels do not need to dip for us to replenish. And if they happen to be dipping, our body's still going to keep us at 5, right? It's not like our gas tank where we see our gas tank and, oh, now it's at 75%. Oh, now it's at 50%. Oh my gosh, it's at a quarter. That's not how it works. 5 grams all the time. Go get me some food, but it's going to still be at 5. We don't understand that. So there's a different thing that happens though when we're insulin resistant. This is the huge but of the story. When you're insulin resistant, which is the case for anyone who is overweight, insulin resistant, right? The people in the study that were obese have this issue happening. The body has a new issue, which is insulin resistance causes our body to overcompensate when sweetness is detected. Now our body is so on edge about the sugar thing. It doesn't just pull enough sugar, it pulls sugar out. So again, instead of just putting, a little bit in the freezer. You've put everything that was available to you in the freezer. That means a larger insulin rise, right? More sugar in that storage, and therefore we are hungry. Hungrier than we would have been had we not been obese. And this matters. I was constantly in that loop, Wellness Warrior, because this is not just about diet drinks. Anything that I was eating, my body was freaking the heck out, putting sugar, too much sugar in storage, and then I'm so hungry that I'm just constantly eating. Even when there was still sugar in the drink, there was actually sugar coming in, the hunger still gets triggered, is the point I'm trying to make. I hope I'm making this clear. So artificial sweetener, huge response. Sugary drink, huge response, both causing the huge response. Whereas for regular weight people, artificial sweetener, huge response. Sugary drink, normal response, because sugar did come in. Our body responded appropriately. We're back to baseline or normal levels of sugar in our blood, back to normal. We need to understand this. We need to see it clearly. So when we're talking about the cephalic response, insulin resistance is pushing a stronger response. No matter how we look at it, artificial sweeteners either raise insulin through their anticipatory insulin release to make space, or overcompensation due to insulin resistance because sweet is being tasted. So our body is pushing, and probably even more than it needed to. But either way, insulin is raised. We started keto or carnivore to lose weight, and artificial sweeteners are in the way. We can't get access to the fat storage, and therefore, because don't forget, as long as insulin is on, we don't have access to fat storage. Like, so as long as this is going, right, we can't, and we're constantly eating because we're constantly hungry because we're insulin, we can't get access to our fat stores. And therefore, we cannot be fueled by the excess fat that's sitting on us waiting to be used as energy. Game over. We stay overweight. That's it. That's it. We're done. No matter how closely we follow our diet, if a 0-calorie drink is quietly triggering our cephalic response, and it doesn't have to be a drink, because at one point it might be a drink. At another time, it might be some stupid sugar-free gum. At another point in time, it might be a sugar-free Jello. All these sugar-free candies, all these sugar-free things that they keep telling us are harmless, but our body recognizes as a food because soda, the regular soda we used to drink came with sugar. Gum that we used to drink, the normal stuff, comes with sugar. Cookies normally come with regular sugar. And they do come with flour, so that's still sugar. But the candies come, Jello usually used to come with sugar, and now we do the sugar-free, it's still coming with, do we understand the problem here? Our brain has already made the connection to these things that's coming in. Yes, this brings sugar in. And we end up struggling because we are doing this to ourselves multiple times a day, because we think, oh, if I just chew gum, it's gonna like, I'm not gonna want to eat something, and we're making ourselves hungry. There's only so long that we can stay hungry before it feels like we are just failing, Wellness Warrior. And here we are again. No sweetener slips through the cracks, because our health is the most important thing. There is not a sweetener that gets around this. There just isn't, because our brain is going to right away say, That's coffee, and it's sweet coffee. Boom, we need to get rid of. That's cookies. It's sweet. Boom, we need to get rid of. Your brain is just going to do it because that's what it needs to do. Sweet taste signal real danger to the body, and the body reacts appropriately. And that's what we want it to do, by the way. We want it to react. Can you imagine? Can you imagine hiring a bodyguard who only took action if he saw a weapon in the person's hand that was walking up to you? But anyone else could just walk up to you and punch you right in the face and no problem. The bodyguard wouldn't do anything because, well, they didn't have a weapon. You'd fire the bodyguard. There's no if, ands, or but about it. You'd been like, what? The person was walking right. Why didn't you get in the way? Right? Our body is doing exactly what is right for it to do. The answer is to start respecting what our body is telling us. If we eat real food, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and salt, our mouths will not excessively trigger insulin, right? We'll get to eat a beautiful meal. And then real food starts to retrain our palate and begins the process of recalibrating our taste buds. Because it takes our taste buds like about 6-ish weeks, if I remember correctly, somewhere in there, a month and a half to 2 months, something like that. My brain is blanking right now, but there's a good period of time, right? So it's eating real food on repeat that's going to allow our mouth to retrain. And that is a huge step towards getting rid of our cravings, because we're giving our brain the signal that from now on it should be expecting real food every day. And if there are vegetables coming in, that they're low glycemic ones, so that it's not freaking the heck out, because every sugar that comes in, my body's reacting. This is not going to go away because it's not supposed to go away, right? But we want it to at least react normally rather than having an exaggerated response. Our body gets the energy and building blocks that it needs to help us build and repair ourselves from the food that we eat. It gets the fuel that we need from the food that we eat. And if we give it the right fuel, fat, it doesn't have to store carbs into fat unnecessarily. It doesn't have to store the incoming fat unnecessarily because it can actually use it. Like, this is the biggest part of this that they don't want us to understand. Because if we understood that clearly, we'd stop eating the stupidity. And best of all, if we truly understood this correctly, we would set ourselves up to lose weight, right? Because a healthy body regulates its weight. My body's ability to build, repair, fix, energize me cleanly is what leads to me being at my healthy weight and has kept me here at my healthy weight for 8 years. Now, if you're struggling with cravings, I'm going to suggest that you watch the video in the description where I walk you through my best tips at fighting cravings. It's called The Absolute Best Way to Stop Sugar Cravings. And also, while you're down there in the description, if you haven't started keto or carnivore yet, I have a course linked. It's called free course, I think, that walks you through how to start keto properly, so that not only do you start it, but you stick with it and get results 8, 9, 12, 20 years later, because it's only by eating properly you're going to get the results. So the links are down below. I am super interested to know if you guys have questions, what you want to know about. This was an interesting beginning of my day, Wellness Warrior, because everything that could go wrong with my computer went wrong with my computer. But I made it work. And yes, as soon as I turned on, I saw that you were here saying, "Hey." I don't know if that was a "Hey, where are you?" Because you came in at 11. But yeah, I know. I apologize for being late. And so any questions, I'm going to try to get through as many of the questions as possible. Hello, Russell. I'm still drinking coffee. Yeah, you know what? I was still drinking coffee for the longest time. I only stopped drinking coffee this past January. No, no, it was more like December-ish. And it was a process. I didn't just pull it out of my life, so I'll just say that straight up. I had already not been putting sweeteners in my coffee from when I started keto. That's going back to 8 years. Um, but I was still putting heavy cream in my coffee. So the reason it took a little bit longer for me to stop my coffee was just because I wasn't 100% sure if the coffee would have been a problem for me to let it go, but I also wasn't sure if the heavy cream was going to be a problem for me to let go. If you guys saw my heavy cream video, right? The one where I said that I think the title is or the caption on the thumbnail is I was wrong. Yes, letting go of heavy cream was not easy for me. It was shockingly hard, actually. I wasn't expecting to have a reaction, and I did have a reaction. But again, because I come from the science background, I just knew that if I was going to do this, I couldn't just drop the whole thing because there was more than one thing in what I was having. So I was having heavy cream, I was having butter, and I was having the coffee. So the heavy cream did have an impact on me. I did not find that dropping, well, I can't even say that because I haven't actually dropped butter 100%. I still cook a bit with butter. My understanding from Dr. Eid is that there's not as much ability for butter to create casomorphin, but she did advise for anybody who's still worried about the casomorphin ability of butter that we could use ghee because ghee takes the rest of the proteins out. So, but yeah, coffee, I did find letting go of coffee, I felt even better. So, and I mean, I'm supposed to make a video on the let go of coffee. I haven't made it yet because I just keep finding these very, very important things that are, I think, a bit more important than whether we're still drinking coffee or not. Although I do think that coffee could be a lever for a lot of people because there's this thing that used to happen to me a lot that I realize now I don't do, which is because coffee, it's not an actual meal for me. Like I was putting butter in it, and up to the very end, I was putting butter until I like so, and I let go of the coffee, and I still was drinking like this butter drink that I had created for a little while just to see was there a difference, and like when I let go of that, would I have another problem? I didn't see a problem when I stopped drinking that butter thing, but like I said, I still have butter in my daily life. So is it daily? Almost daily life. That being said, I did notice that when I let go of dairy, had a reaction. Made that video because that was surprising to me. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting the coffee reaction because I know that coffee's addictive. And the few times that I did let it go before, I had the headache, I had the thing. So, I mean, I knew I was going to go through those withdrawal symptoms. Um, I didn't realize how much better my skin would get. Is that still an ongoing thing that I'm still finding that there's more things that is causing my skin to continue to improve? But there was a noticeable difference when I let go of coffee. Um, concentration. Like there were just things that I noticed that maybe one day I'm going to make the video. But like I said, I keep finding much more important things to talk about, like this topic today, because I feel like they're just pushing so hard on artificial sweeteners being harmless, and they're not. They're not for our weight loss. They're not for our good health because insulin resistance is a problem. It is a problem. And high insulin, so insulin spikes contribute to insulin resistance. Extendedly long periods of time with raised insulin contributes to insulin resistance. Both of those two scenarios happen with artificial sweeteners. Different ways, different levels, different things, depending on the sweetener. But we need to understand that. Both of those things happen with sugar, carbohydrates of different forms. We need to understand that. So it's difficult, but I want to make sure that I'm giving you the best information that I can. I want to make sure that, so like talking about coffee, when there's still people out there that are being misguided on artificial sweeteners or other things that I've spoken about, like protein. I needed to talk about those things, but I will get to that coffee video. Hello, translation stations. I'm very happy that you're here. Hello, Pat. I'm happy you were able to join me this morning. I still drink coffee too. Hard one to let go of. Yeah, I mean, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes concentration. We have to, when it only happens when we actively decide to do it. And this is the thing is like, be ready for it. I don't encourage anybody to let go of anything before they're ready for it. Like, you'll notice that Dr. Chafee talked to me about coffee. That video is more than 2 years old by this point, I'm sure. And I only let go of coffee this past December. I wasn't ready, right? So I do see the value. Like, for example, if your standard American diet, please, at the minimum, be low carb. Please, I'm begging you, at the minimum. But if you're low carb and doing well, you might actually be able to stay there, especially if you're a young person. Like, if you're really young and you started this journey like really young, low carb might work well enough for you to live an absolutely healthy feeling life long into the far into the future. But pay attention to yourself and understand that a lot of the things that could be happening we can't see. And that's a part of the reason why I say that, but I always hedge because there's stuff we can't see. If my heart or lungs or liver or like if my internal organ, my brain are being impacted, I can't see that. I can only know that it's happening when the failure point happens, right? We end up in the hospital for some reason, right? Or we end up with some kind of anxiety, depression, or brain issue. Then we know, oh, it was impacting our brain. But if we don't see real evidence, it's easy to think that everything's fine when it's not. The other way is like, how's your skin? How's your nails? How's your hair? Right? How's your energy? How's your sleep? I feel like the problem is a lot of us just assume those things are there because it's normal when in fact it's not normal. Like, I was surprised to learn that like acne and all this stuff doesn't actually need to be there. And that my skin doesn't just need to be dry, or that my skin isn't just dry because it's winter, something that we've all been told. No, like last winter, my skin was much moister than typical, and I was not moisturizing near as much. And this summer, now we're going into, well, we're August, but like it blows my mind that I have this level of moisture in my skin without putting any cream on whatsoever, without moisturizing at all. The only place that I still put I put tallow actually on my actual hands because I put tallow on my face and I just don't want to wash it off into the soap. So I rub it into my hands. So I put a little bit here and then I put some, like, that's all I do. It blows my mind that my skin looks normal now. And I feel like, again, we've been told this lie and we've been told many lies. So going back to, don't let go of things until you're ready to let them go. Because when you let them go, letting them go and bringing them back is how people end up fighting with their cravings, fighting with their body, because your body's like cleaning up and doing well. And then you bring something back. And like, I mean, honestly, I've said this a bunch of times. It's like if you have a cut, it starts to heal. You accidentally hit it and it opens. And then it starts to heal again, and then you actually hit it and it opens, and then it starts to heal again. And if you keep doing that, eventually you're going to end up with an infection and problems because your body is just not going to be able to manage. We don't understand that internally, when our body is cleaning up, it's not just cleaning up our skin. Yes, my skin looks amazing, but I'm sure that there were internal things that were brewing, because it's not typical that what takes us out is a skin issue, what typically takes us out is something internal, right? We get diagnosed with something and, right, this problematic. So I want us to think about that. As you clean up, keep what you cleaned up. I personally, and this is just me looking at all the people I've spoken to and what their experience has been of letting something go and then bringing it back. I personally, honestly believe that when you let something go and bring it back, that your body is reacting to it, like again, like the cut situation, more so than if you just had never let it go. And even though you might rightfully so want to let it go, you might be fully right and aware and correct in that this needs to be let go. I'm just suggesting be certain so that when you do let it go, it doesn't come back. Like part of the reason that I don't fall off the track myself, like like that's that saying falling off the wagon. The reason I don't fall off the wagon is because everything that I've let go, I was ready to let go, and that means that when I go to a party or go to any event or whatever, I don't care that it's there. I don't care. So like because I let it go on purpose. I'm like I'm not eating that anymore. It's not food for me. That doesn't exist. And it's not food in my opinion at all. But especially in my diet, like vegetation is not food to me any longer. Don't want it. Don't put it on my plate. I don't want it disturbing my animal protein. Not everybody feels that way. And I understand that. But I feel like I wasn't going to be carnivore until I got to the part where that's how I was thinking about it. I now no longer consider dairy food to me. So I don't have it anymore. And that's well, except for butter. I still have butter. But I don't have any of the other dairy. Again. And I would have ghee, right? Especially if I made it at home, 100% I would have ghee. The only reason I stopped buying ghee in the grocery store is I bought a container and I was eating it and my body was reacting like if I had plant oils. I'm assuming something was in the ghee and I just like said, no, I'm not going to use that anymore. So now I just, any of the plant oils, I still have coconut oil in my cupboard. I use it for conditioning my pans because I have carbon steel pans and they need to be heat treated and they need to be oiled and then you kind of like you cook the oil off. So I need to do that to them regularly and that's what I use my oils for now. Anyways, tangent, wow, Violet, tangent. Yeah, I remember trying with Equal once. It tasted horrible. Yeah, I mean, honestly, these things do. It's crazy to me how when you mix something together, it can taste good, but then like individually, it could taste bad. The same thing with flour. I don't know if I mean, as a kid, I tasted flour. I'm like, why do we eat this? But the funny thing is that when you make it into something else, it tastes perfectly fine. So yeah, let's see. Translation Station says, the struggle is real. I feel like I've got it this time. 2.5 months now, no cheese. Congratulations. That's amazing. And I think like this, that's the part that feels good is that when we actually start doing what's best for our body and see the results, if we can hold on to those results, like keep them in front of our mind. I think what pulls us off track is once we're doing the healthy diet consistently, our weight regulates and we start to feel like, oh, now I can. But the thing is, we never could. And I hope that this video today is showing you that. That cephalic brain response started when we were babies. It didn't start at 25 because we were overweight. When we were babies, our brain was saying no to that food, but I, as a mother, did not listen to my daughter. I remember her spitting it out. I remember her turning her head. I remember her doing that for sweet things, not for the bland stuff, in my opinion, bland, right? She didn't do that for meat. She didn't do, but somehow, because fruits and vegetables are healthy, I pushed her to eat the fruits and vegetables more so than kept giving her the meat and the low glycemic vegetables that she didn't seem to mind. She did eat those, but I kept pushing the vegetables, pushing the fruit. Well, I pushed the fruit for until she was like maybe 1.5, 2. And when I had a conversation with my pediatrician, who told me, yeah, you don't have to do that. My pediatrician, well, she was actually from Africa, and she was like, yeah, kids eat based on what's healthy for them. And I don't have to force her to eat fruits if she's eating vegetables. She said, look, just give her the vegetables that she likes. So that's what I started doing. I started giving her the vegetables that she likes. And again, like, I wish I would have known to just eliminate the sweet things from her life at that point because we don't need them, but I didn't know that at the time. So when there were parties and events happening, it was still available to her. And I still remember the day that it happened on her 6th birthday. For the first time, she tasted her birthday cake. And I think it was because someone in the family said, you're not going to even taste your cake? And she tasted it and she was like, ugh. And she ran away and she didn't eat it. But that was the first time she tasted her own birthday cake. And after that, like, she just would taste things once in a while and eventually, like everybody else, got pulled in. Right. And I really do wish I would have understood that. I could have just told her, yeah, it's not good. Mommy's not going to eat it either anymore. And we could have just not been eating it. And at least she maybe understanding it at such a young age. The same way that we teach our kids why lying is not good. We teach them that, like we teach them why being polite is the right thing and rude is not good. Like, we theoretically could teach our kids that eating garbage isn't good and have them just like, no, not to eat garbage. Wouldn't that be lovely? And we should do that, but we don't. Um, so sad. So this is translation stations again. So sad. Those who purposefully engineer things to literally hijack our system just for money. Sad and pathetic. This hijacking is beyond hacking, straight up devious. Yeah, it is absolutely. I most of my videos somehow or another point back to, please pay attention to what the companies are doing, because I want everyone to stop blaming themselves, right? Oh my God, it bothers me so much when I hear people talking about willpower. When I hear people talking about, um, oh, what's the other word that we have there? But like this whole idea that somehow I can force myself, oh, moderation is another word I can't stand. I can force myself to have just a little bit because I have willpower. No, like none of us have willpower against, that's like saying I'm going to have willpower against any of the other things that trigger our brains, the white stuff, right? Or, the, the, just the stupidities, the drinks that some people get pulled into, like just the stupidities that people put in their body because somehow they believe that they can actually control what they are having. We can't control it. We're never going to be able to control it. You coming here? You can come. We're never ever going to be able to control it because it's not controllable. It's actually created to make us like overdo it. That's the point. So yeah, it does drive me nuts. I will be right there with you. Um, Translation station says, you'll know when it's time to completely stop. I've cut the coffee way down. I will give it up at some point. Yeah, I honestly do believe that if our goal is to let something go, then we will see that it's time to let it go. Like, we're going to look at it and we're going to do it because, okay, like now I'm ready. I think the biggest mistake that people make is that they do something because someone else is doing it. Like, so let me be clear. I started keto because my hip was hurting and I needed to solve my hip problem. Like, I couldn't barely walk. I couldn't do my job. I couldn't sit like what I'm doing right now. I've been sitting for 50 minutes in a row right now. And I was not even able to do like half an hour at one point. Like, I would be in pain half an hour into sitting. Half an hour. Like, it was basically half an hour into anything. Lay down. About half an hour later, my hip was hurting. Stand up. My hip was hurting. Like, eventually, I just needed to find an answer. But I started keto because what I learned was that I had an inflammation problem in my hip, and that inflammation can be caused by too much sugar. And keto was the diet that I found that was supposed to help people to keep their sugar low enough to solve the problem. And that's what I ended up doing, right? I didn't just do it because, oh, look at this influencer, they're doing it. No. And I don't want any of you to do it because of Violet's doing it. I want you to do it because you see the value in allowing your body to actually get the protein, so the animal protein and animal fat that our human bodies are built from, because that's what they're built from. Every time we allow ourselves to eat large amounts of carbohydrates and plant fats, and especially the ultra processed seed oils that are just toxic and not good for our health, whenever we allow ourselves to do that, what we end up doing is giving our body poor quality materials to build ourselves with. My hands were suffering for the fact that I was kept giving it these seed oils to build myself with instead of giving it lard, tallow, butter, bacon fat. Like, I was giving it silliness, right? So this is the thing, is when you're gonna let go of something out of your diet, be conscious of it. And even with myself, I didn't go straight from I'm eating all the veg to eating no veg on carnivore. I did 2 years of extremely limited, and I say extremely limited, but to me it was fine. Like, I was eating the stuff I liked. I was still having a salad from a restaurant that we liked every other week. I was still eating avocados once a week, and I was still having olives once a week. And that was the extent of my keto life, my vegetation, for 2 years. Those three vegetation plates were what I was having for 3 years. So, like, it's so doable, wellness warrior, as long as you allow yourself to are you okay? As long as you allow yourself to plan it properly and take your decisions on what you're doing. Let's see. Let's see. Patrick says, I remember sprinkling sweeteners on my cereal instead of sugar because I thought it was healthier. Yeah. Never in coffee though. Preferred honey. Once again, healthier. Yeah, the only thing that I will say, Pat, is that the good part is that the cereal still had sugar in it. So likely, like, the artificial sweetener part of the story wouldn't have harmed you as bad because there was sugar in the thing that you were sprinkling the artificial sweetener on. But yeah, it wasn't helping you. And especially when we learn later that, like, some of these sweeteners are carcinogenic, it's like that even makes it even worse. So, and I haven't made a video about the fact that some of these sweeteners are carcinogenic just because, I mean, there's so many avenues I could end up going down on my channel that, like, I want to try to help as many people. I said this a bunch of times. I want to try to help as many people as I can get onto their healthy diet and stay there. And that's my goal. I want 1,000 people. I want to know with a fact that 1,000 people have heard something that I had to say and it helped them stay on track. So obviously, if something I've said is helping you to stick with it and stay on track, please let me know. Because, like, as soon as I hit 100 people, I'm probably gonna put it on a t-shirt or something. Like, I'm so excited for this idea because the way that it works in my brain, and I'll share this little thought process with you. I was not keto or carnivore, so I wasn't keto yet when my grandmother, uncle, and aunt all passed from things related to the food they were eating. And especially my grandmother and my aunt were people that I often talked about health and weight because us three had weight issues. And I know that if I would have figured this out, I know. I don't know that. I believe that if I would have figured this out, I would have been able to help them. I'm doing this 1,000 person thing to honor those three people in my life. My uncle, I'm not sure I would have been able to help, but he was one of the people that left before I had a chance to even say it. I said it to lots of people in my family. Some people took action. Most haven't. That's okay. Like they have, but it bothers me that I never got a chance to say it to those three people. And it was so obvious that their three scenarios were related. So my hope is, are you going? My hope is that I can help 1,000 people and just feel like somehow I've helped somebody else not live what I lived, right? Some other person is not going to lose their uncle, their aunt, or their grandparent earlier than necessary. So that really does matter immensely to me. Forever Tea says, hey, I'm about to begin. I'm sorry, I'm at the beginning of the video, dropping in to say hi. Or nope, dropping in to say I've lost 80 pounds on keto and kept it off for 5 years. Thank you for sharing that because I mean, I know I've been doing this for 8 years, but sometimes people just don't believe that normal, typical people can accomplish this. And you pointing out that you've done it too is reinforcement that people can do this. However, I've kept artificial sweeteners in my diet and my A1C is now 5.7. I don't know, 5.7, I think 5.7 is pretty normal. What I will say, and I'm going to just say to you, T, I'm glad that this is your story. I'm glad that you're still fine. I'm going to say it out loud. Artificial sweeteners do trigger us. Now, I've also said, and if you go back in my videos, you can see where I said, one thing that I figured out is that as long as I don't drink that soda by itself, I was able to keep it in my rotation. And what I did is I transitioned myself away from it. So how I did that was that I allowed myself to only have that diet soda if I was eating something, in which case sugar is coming in. My spikes are not egregious. It's not ridiculous. It's not like, off the charts. But again, as you move forward, and maybe you never plan to stop being keto. And so the diet soda in that story isn't a problem. It's still a problem for the ones that are carcinogenic. I would beg on you, please make sure you're not using a sweetener that's carcinogenic. So that I will say. But if you're going to be having it always besides something that you're eating, theoretically, from what I saw with myself, it's not a problem. I only ever had that problem happen when I drank the diet soda by itself, no food with it. So I'm going to put that out there as part of what I'm saying. Which is part of the reason that when I was even talking in the video and I said cookies, I prefaced it by saying, but cookies also have flour in them because flour is carbohydrate, right? Whether it's almond flour or regular flour or potato flour, whatever flour, just carbohydrate. So just making that. But I'm very happy to hear that you've been keto for 5 years. I'm amazingly happy to hear that the artificial sweeteners have not negatively impacted you. And again, maybe you're just smart enough to always have your drink with something to eat. Perfect. Let's see. Very good thing now that all those sweeteners taste horrible. Yeah, they taste horrible alone. That's the thing though. Like, I feel like this is where a lot of people still get pulled in, Pat, is that using them to bake cookies, using, like, I remember, because I even have stevia powder in my stupid cupboard because I bought stevia at the very beginning. And like too much stevia, oh my gosh, tastes horrible. Tastes horrible. Like, it's not even like it just makes it sweeter. No. You go from this tastes good to, oh my God, this tastes horrible. And it's part of the reason that like I have so much stevia left because I could not figure out like to just always put that exact amount that's gonna taste good enough. I would often underdose it just so like it was just not sweet enough versus letting it be so sweet that it was like tasted, it was basically for the garbage. But Stevia is a very strong sweetener, especially if you buy just sweetener and it's not mixed with something else. I think I did eventually start mixing it with something else until I realized the thing that the something else I was mixing it with was one of the ones that they were saying was carcinogenic. So then I just like I just like whatever. I pulled myself out. I pulled myself out of that game because yeah. Yes, I do have a cat. And he's adorable. Adorable. It was a little bit misbehaved this morning, but he's adorable. I think it's 8 weeks now with my arthritis in hand and knee is gone. Translation stations. These are the things I want you to pay close attention to anytime that you even consider eating something silly, right? When these things become part of like a thought process, I want you to remember I don't have arthritis in my hands and knees anymore. Like, how amazing does that feel? That should keep you going forever. I used to do the same with honey in coffee. Thought it was healthy. You know what? The translation stations and Pat, I never did the honey thing. Like, I don't think I like, well, I don't like the way honey tastes. And this is another thing with me that's maybe just a little bit odd. But I like, not every sweet thing was something that I liked. Like, there's a lot of like, I didn't like all kinds of chocolate bars, even though chocolate was my kryptonite. Like, for example, I have this pack of Smarties here. This would never have been a pull for me, even though it's chocolate. I never liked Smarties. If Smarties was the only chocolate available at an event, I would just rather not have it than have Smarties. Right? I pulled this out of my daughter's Halloween pull a few years ago. The other thing that bothers me about all this stuff that's sitting on my desk that I've been sitting here for years is how like this package is still so smooth. It doesn't even puff up. Like, it's not even spoiling. And this package expired in this is not so bad, 2025 November. So maybe when I bought it, it had a long way to go. When did this expire? Some of them it actually annoys me that you can't see the expiration date on the packaging, which just makes it more, oh, there we go. This is also, it looks like 2025 as well. Although I also do hate when they write the date in a way that's not obvious, because theoretically this could also be 2022, the way that this is written. So I don't know. Is it 2022 or is it 2025? I'm actually going to go with 2022. But it also could be 02. It could also be 2002. Again, it's hard to tell, but this is not even the slightest bit puffy. So, like, these things don't spoil. Even if I look at like the pasta, not even the slightest bit puffy. Like, these things don't spoil. It's crazy to me that we eat this stuff thinking that it's food. But I never liked sweet flavors, so I wouldn't, or not like certain sweet flavors. So I wouldn't have eaten those Smarties because every shell tastes different. And that, like, first of all, that drove me crazy. But second of all, some of the, like, the red ones tasted disgusting. Like there were certain flavors I was just like, why do people like this? I was an M&M's peer person. Why? The shell tasted fine to me, and they all tasted the same. Everybody's different, right? But honey, oh, I always hate it. You know, like, if you get sick, you take honey with lemon. If my mom tried to give me that, I would rather have Buckley's. So if anybody's ever tried Buckley's, that tells you how much I hate lemon. That I would prefer Buckley's than lemon. Sorry, not lemon, but I hate honey. I would prefer Buckley's than lemon and honey. So I hated honey. This was an amazing conversation, Wellness Warriors. I love when I get to kind of go down rabbit holes with you guys and just talk a little bit about what keeps me on track. Because I think sometimes, like, I like when doctors talk about what they understand about food that helps them to stay on track, because it gives me a lot of data to help myself to stay on track, if that makes sense. And that's why I'm trying to do for you. I want to tell you about the stuff I'm learning so that you have even more incentive to keep yourself on track. So next Monday is going to be a video that's not going to happen because I'm going to be on vacation, so I'm taking a small bit of time off. So Monday there won't be a live stream, and then we'll be back the following Monday, schedule with normal schedule. So I really hope you guys have a lovely holiday vacation. The normal videos though theoretically should still go up as planned, so that should happen. There just won't be a Monday live stream. So enjoy the rest of your week, guys, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Questions, comments down below. Go get the free course. There's no reason not to get the free course. If you're not keto already, go get the free course, learn about it, and when you're ready, you get started. But at least you'll know how to go about doing it, and you can watch it as many times as you want. And if you are already carnivore or keto, and you want some support, jump in the community, and or actually in the coaching. Jump in the coaching, and we can talk about it. I'll be back from vacation in 2 weeks, right? Yeah, so we can have a conversation in the next meeting. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Today's video is brought to you by My Keto Consultations. You know how to do keto, but you're having trouble just sticking with it? Book a consultation with me and we're going to get you back on track. The link is in the description.